Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, Maddie. That's lovely. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you very much. Right, let's get cracking. I've got lots I want to share with you this evening, so I'm really keen to go through lots of different things to share with you today. Let's hope there isn't going to be. I know there is one technical glitch I've got to tell you about, but we'll get to that bit later. So welcome to all of you. I just wanted to give you this opportunity to have this hour with me, nice and calm, clear any distractions. If you're anything like me and you have your mobile phone sitting next to you and you see something beep or something pop up, I'm looking at it straight away. So clear any distractions, give yourself this time. Let's have a nice hour together. I've got lots of really lovely things to tell you about in this hour. I've turned the mics off. The cameras are on, but I'm fine with that. If you want to turn your camera off, please feel free to do so if you want to. Feel free to use the chat. I'm presuming that you should be able to see the chat. What I tend to do is just I can find it a little bit distracting. It sort of takes me off on a tangent if I see things and start answering. So I'll probably come back to the chat at the end if that's okay with everybody. But if I do see something pop up that's particularly pertinent at the time and that I can talk to you about, I will do. And this is wherever you're at in your journey, wherever you're, whatever stage you're at, whether you're someone who's just thinking about craft to income, if you're just thinking about selling, you've never done anything like this at all before, just let someone else in. If you are someone who has been regularly selling already or trying to sell, wherever you're at, this is a completely judgment-free space. So just feel very welcome to be here, and it's lovely to have you here this evening. So you are definitely in the right place if any of these resonate with you. You've got loads of creative ideas, you've made loads of different things, but you're not really sure if whether people are actually going to buy it or if they will at all. You might be there worrying about getting it wrong. Are you going to be just wasting your time if you did this? Or do you feel a little bit like that now that you've perhaps started and feeling like you might be wasting your time a bit? Excuse me. Or are you worrying that you might be not quite good enough? Maybe you're a little bit afraid of the tech. I know that you might be seeing people seeming like they've got it all sussed, that they've got all the different things. You can see tech isn't always easy. Tech does go wrong, and that might be something that puts you off. Maybe the actual whole selling thing might be something that puts you off. It might be all of those things. Maybe you thought about trying to sell, or you already have been on somewhere like Etsy, and that just feels really, really overwhelming. And maybe actually you don't necessarily want a high pressure big business. Maybe actually you're just looking for something that gives that little bit extra out of something that brings you joy. And it just gives you those little bit of freedom for little luxuries, trips away, evenings out, But if your long-term aspirations is for that to be a bigger business, that's equally being in the right place as well. So if any of those resonate with you, do feel free to add that into the chat and we'll have a look at those towards the end and see where you're feeling and if any of those particularly things where you feel you're at. So my promise to you today is that I'm going to show you that it is possible to take your craft from an idea to your first sale, or if you're in that position, more consistent sales, and that it can be done without feeling all that hustle and feeling like the tech is going to be the thing that puts you off, all that overload. And it can be calm and it can be yours. And what I'm trying to say there is that it's I want you to feel that you can absolutely make something what you want it to be. So you don't have to make it what someone else does. If it's just a little business, a little hobby, a little side hustle, and that's all you want it to be, and that's all it ever wants to be, that is absolutely possible. And I'm here to help you do that. So this evening, I've got three parts that I want to talk to you about, three things I want to share with you. The first part are three things I think you need to start selling. So if you're at someone who has never sold or anything before, these are the main three things just to give it a go, just to start. So if you're someone who has started already, these are things that maybe did you think about these things when you started selling? Are these things that might help you close the gap? But these are like basic things. I'm not saying it's all you need necessarily, but if you're just going to give it a go and just start, these are the things that I would say you would need. The second thing is the second part is talking to you about the viability of your idea through pricing. And this is incredibly important. And it is something I really, really strongly believe in. And then thirdly, I'm going to be talking about a simple strategy that is basically something you could just go out and do, and you don't need to have a massive audience to do that. So you might be sitting there thinking to yourself, hang on a minute, I'm not ready yet. And really feeling like I'm not sure this is what I want to do. I don't know if I really am ready for this. Is this what I want? And I would say that absolutely I felt exactly the same. I didn't feel like I was going to be ready. I just went for it. I'm not sure if you ever do feel ready, if I'm completely honest. But it depends on what your level of ready is as well. But you may be sitting there thinking that you're not ready. But I'm here to help you really feel like wherever you're at, you can make a start and you can have a go. You might be saying, I've tried it before and it didn't work. And I think ultimately that is something where you can feel really stuck. You can feel like, I've done this, well, how is this going to be different? But I'm hoping that some of the things I'm going to talk about and I can help you might fill some of those gaps and fill those bits where you felt a little bit unstuck and having some confidence as well. And as I've already kind of alluded to, I don't want to have time to run a business or learn how to do it better. And again, that's kind of really thinking about that it's building something that you want to have and actually how you can build in time that you want to be able to learn to make these things happen. Now, interestingly, if you are sitting there thinking, I don't know, I've got time, and I found this a really interesting fact, which is why I wanted to share it, that 79% of UK Etsy sellers are actually women. And out of those 23%, sorry, out of that 79%, only 23% percent work full time on their shops. And that kind of struck me as just that reminder, really, that of what is possible. You don't have to feel like if you're going to have an Etsy shop or you already do, that you have to work on it full time all the time. It's about actually, rather than the product, it's about yourself. It's about your strategy and how you go about kind of doing those things and selling those things. So I'm hoping that what I'm going to share with you tonight, you're going to enjoy and that you're going to be happy to stick with me till the end of my presentation. And for doing so, at the end, I'll be giving you a couple of little extra freebies. One of them is my handmade sales checklist. And this is kind of like a kind of recap of what we're talking about tonight and giving you some key points of things to really think about when you're selling your products or your whatever else you might be selling. And then the second thing is a really detailed 22-page workbook that I've created, which is about making a vision board. Now, some of you might be familiar with a vision board, some of you might not. But essentially, it is about, and I find it really lovely because I just love doing things that are visual. If you're a creative person, you like doing sort of creative and visual things. It's about something that I find really helpful of thinking about your goals. It kind of really unpicks all what you're thinking about and really helps you think about your why. I don't know if any of you've heard of the book Start With Why. It's by Simon Sinek. I think it's pronounced Sinek, I believe. Really, really interesting book. I'd definitely recommend reading it. And that kind of talks about starting with why. And this sort of vision board idea is really helps you kind of think about why you want to do it. What are your goals? What do you want it to be? What do you want it to be able to help you with? All that sort of stuff. So there's some really two lovely things for you to enjoy when we get to the end. Now, what I will say, what this evening is not for, is that if any of you are sitting there thinking that there's going to be absolutely magic overnight results, because unlike most things, things don't just happen by magic, and it's not just going to happen overnight. There is needing to put the work in things. And when I say that, I don't want it to sound like there's tons of things to do. But what I'm trying to allude to is that you obviously you need to take action, essentially. And if you don't particularly like it when you come to these things, a free training, and then there's going to be talking about an offer, because I am going to be talking to you about my brand new course, which I'm really excited about, called Craft to Income, at the end of the training as well. So those things are things that are for you to be prepared for. So after all that waffling, I'm going to introduce myself. Um, so those of you who don't know me, some of you obviously have met me through social media. Some of you I might have even met in person at previous shows or through my previous business, Susie Jules. I don't know. There's lots of different people here this evening. But my name is Suzanne Booth. I'm a passionate crafter, textile designer, content creator, and a former primary school teacher. So I've been had my fingers in lots of pies and done lots of different things. So I wanted to just sort of try and keep as brief as I can, my kind of story, just to give you some context of why I'm doing what I'm doing and why I'm here. So I do have a woven textile design degree. That's what I trained in, and I absolutely loved weave, and I really do miss it because I just don't have the space. I know I've got lots of this sort of yarn, but having a loom and things has kind of been something that's not been possible in recent years. From there, I went straight into industry. I was really lucky to get a job straight from graduating and worked in a textile design studio in London for a company called Wallace Sewell. If you wanted to look them up, they're a fantastic company led by two ladies, much, much bigger than it was when I was working with them in the early 2000s. And they basically were the ones that gave me very much my entrepreneurial spirit. I was running the studio for them, and that definitely seeing them doing it and all of the stuff and learning so much from them is when I then decided to set up my own design studio. That was over in Basingstoke, in here where I live now, and I started selling and designing fabrics, which was a great thing to do. But as life happens, children came along and things started to take a little bit of a different turn. I had to be away from the studio. I was at home a lot more and I still crafted. So I did wedding stationery. I used to do a lot of wedding stationery and greeting card design, which there was that phase. I don't know if any of you remember of there being everyone made handmade cards. And initially they did quite well until sort of the digital age came in. And yeah, things sort of turned as the boys grew up. Things kept, changing. And me and my mum decided to pull together our creative aspirations, I suppose. And we started Susie Jules, and that's when Susie Jules started. Me being the Susie, mum being the Jules. And that was making handmade children's clothes, so sewing and making accessories and all things like that. As the boys grew up, they went to school, and then that's where I got into that education bug and started to get involved in education. I started off as a TA and was one of those people that just had to keep sitting on my hands thinking, oh, I really want to have a go at doing this. And I trained to teach. So I became a fully qualified primary school teacher and did that for a few years. Loved it, loved all the kind of working with kids, loved the creativity. But over time, if anyone's familiar with that industry and working in education, it was an all-consuming job, something that literally did eventually lead to me feeling really like not using my creativity anymore. I gave it my all, and unfortunately, I was signed off sick for 6 months. And that's when I learned to crochet in that time. So I really, really value that kind of creative well-being aspect of crafting. And that's where Susie Jules kind of carried on for a little bit of time until I've just keep finding myself being pulled back to wanting to help others and teach others. And it's in the last sort of 18 months to a year that I've kind of made this pivot of being really, really passionate about wanting to try and help other women feel empowered to be able to make money from their craft. I don't know about you, but I certainly grew up with people telling me that being creative, having a craft meant that I wouldn't be able to make money from it. And over the last 20 odd years, I've done so many different things. I've learnt so much. I'm really, really keen to help other people. I don't know if any of you are spiritual or anything, and I'm not saying that I am at all, but really, really interestingly, I found out that my life path number is a really, really unique one, number 33, which actually is master teacher. So I feel like why I keep coming back to this perhaps has something to do with that. But I really am I just love helping other people and really passing on my knowledge and inspiring others to have a go at these things. Right. Okay. Let's get stuck in with the three parts that I want to talk to you about this evening. So part one, as I've said, are those three things. Part two is that idea viability, and then part three about a sales strategy. So part one, The three essentials to make a confident start. So if you're someone who's there who has perhaps already made this start, I would like you to just take this opportunity to think about things I'm going to talk about and see if they're things that you have had the time to think on and whether they might be things that you could come back to and almost reassess. Let's start looking through them and see how we go. So these are the three things I feel that you kind of need just to be able to make a start. As I said earlier, these aren't the it all. There's definitely other things, but if you had to pick out the three key things, this is what I would tell you. To make sure that you have got a sellable idea, having a platform to sell on, and I know I'm using the word platform as if I'm just alluding to online. That's not necessarily the case, just a platform, a place to sell on, and making sure you've got some kind of visibility plan. So the sellable idea part. Now, most people choose their products based on what they enjoy making. Why not? Because you want to enjoy making it. But if it's not sellable, it's not going to sustain you. So to make a product sellable, yes, you do need to keep enjoying it, absolutely. But you also be needing to think about these things. Has it got an actual use? Or does it have some kind of appeal in some way? Is it something that's kind of the moment, maybe? Does it have gift value? So is it something someone would buy because they can absolutely see how they would gift it to someone? So that might be like something personalized. And what I should also add into there, you could also have, does it solve a problem? Which is a really big one, which I've kind of missed off there, is like, could your product actually be helping someone with something? These are all things that are quite important to think about because those are things that you can use in how you market it. So that's another reason why it's sellable. And then the other thing is that to make your item sellable is whether you can price it in a way that covers your time and your materials, it feels worth it, and you've got to really think about whether it is right for the market as well. So here's a little bit of a story from my perspective of a sellable idea. So, like I said to you earlier, I learnt and taught myself to crochet, got well into it, started to learn all these different things I could do. And coming from that textile design background, I've always sort of seen myself as kind of a quite commercial designer. I use a lot of trends and colorways and things that I'm inspired by like that to think about what I'm designing and what I'm making, and using my sort of color knowledge and things like that. So I had all these lovely ideas and all these lovely products that I thought, great, these are what I'm going to sell. But of course, I started doing the maths. I started working out how long this thing had taken me, how much all the materials had cost me, and working out a cost price, and then knowing I needed to make a profit on top of that, that suddenly these products were way right out there. Now, if I was some kind of designer brand, like I think it was a couple of years ago, the designer brand Chloe was selling crochet bags for hundreds of pounds. And because they've got that kind of, that designer label, they were going to do it. But for me to sell a crochet bag at hundreds of pounds, you had to be joking. It wasn't going to work, wasn't going to happen. I could go into M&S at the time. I remember going to being at a craft fair with all these lovely bags and everyone saying how beautiful it was and how it's just so lovely. And you could see them looking at it for ages. And you're thinking, why is this sale so hard? And then you could go to M&S and they're quite happy to pay 35 quid for a similar one made by wherever. So there's definitely that element of you thinking about that whole market and where the market is at. I had to change tact. And that's where, for me, doing all that pricing work and looking at my product and thinking about my sellable product, I realised the way to make that sellable was to make it into a kit. Now, I'm not just saying that that's what you should do for everything at all, but this is where the pricing for viability is so, so important. It might be that you price something, a handmade item, and you price it and it is on that higher end, but with great marketing, and you really, understanding who you're selling it to and all of those things, you can absolutely still sell it at those prices. It's a lots of different things, and that's what I talk about in my course is all these different factors and different things to think about, whether you can really decide on whether your product is sellable and it's viable. The other thing I would advise is that you started in one place. You don't need to be everywhere. It's so, so tempting to literally try and get on every platform you can. Over time, you can start building that up, especially as your confidence grows and you start to be more comfortable with making listings or going to different places. You just, to start and to begin, concentrate on doing one really, really well. One main place might be going on to Etsy, maybe selling through your social media, maybe selling from craft fairs and markets. My main message is keep it simple. The one caveat I would give to that is that I think it's very viable, excuse me, to maybe look at an online and then maybe still do some craft fairs and markets. The reason for that is that craft fairs and markets are fantastic for getting immediate feedback. You can chat to people, you can see what they're picking, you can see what sells, what doesn't. Not that that's a you know, dead cert, because again, in my course, I talk about you can have the same thing or you sell one thing and you think it's amazing. So the next time you go to the exact same fair at the exact same time with hundreds of those and you sell none. So craft fairs and things like that are still their own thing, but it is a great way to obviously really start to get that feedback, start to talk to people and build your confidence as well as selling in person. So one main place with a slight caveat that you might want to do an inline and in person. So a visibility plan is the third thing. What are you doing to be visible? What do you think I mean by being visible? Now, because I've got this slide presenting, I can't actually see the chat, which is really annoying. And I don't want to dare press anything in case it all disappears. So we'll perhaps come back to this and see when you've got in the chat. But I know that what happens an awful lot if I ask this question, so do feel free to pop it in. I'll be interested to see when I can get back and look at it. If a lot of people are going to say to me, what are you doing to be visible? You'll say, I'm going to go on social media. What do you think I mean by being visible? Saying, I, I'm going to get myself on social media. I'm going to go on all the different platforms. The reason I say that is because of visibility is not about posting more on social media. A visibility plan is about having a multi-layered visibility, making sure that there's lots of different things within that plan. Visibility is not just social media, and that's a really, really important thing. It's about being seen in multiple places. So, where your audience are, and this is another key thing that I teach you, is about understanding who your audience actually is, because it's not everyone. You might sort of say, oh, well, my knitted hats appeal to everyone. Do they, though? Is there someone that actually, if you really focus on who you want to sell that to, is that your audience? And you need to be where your audience are. So if you're making, I can never say it, amigurumi toys, are 16 to 20-year-olds that might be interested in them, or if you sell them as kits, for example, are they on Facebook? I know my 20-year-old is nowhere near Facebook. So there's no point selling anything to that age group in Facebook. So it's really understanding who exactly your audience are and make sure you're in those places. So in terms of social media, you 100% need to think that. But your visibility, that multi-layer, is also having an email list. Now that might at this point for some of you feel really scary. An email list is so valuable. What if Facebook, we wake up tomorrow and it's gone? Instagram's gone. All those followers, and this is where I talk about worrying about how many followers you have, that you've got to have a huge audience, or a huge amount of followers. You could be spending ages building up all these followers. Who are they actually your audience anyway? But you build them up and then suddenly it all goes pop. Your email list is yours. It's got your customers, you own it, no one can take that away from you. So an email list is vital. Breadcrumbing in groups. That's something again I will talk about in more depth, but that's kind of making sure you're just like dipping into different groups that you might be a part of that are relevant, again, where your audience might be, and getting them to be a little bit intrigued by who is this person that keeps commenting. I'm going to go and check them out. Speaking and demonstrating. So if you've got opportunities and you feel brave enough, you are someone who's confident enough to do that. Speaking and demonstrating is a brilliant way of being able to kind of get people to start to know you. Maybe there might be a little local group that you could go and speak at or demonstrate at or talk, just go along and talk to people. And obviously craft fairs, as I've said earlier, is a great part of your visibility because you're physically going out there and seeing people. So that's that part one bit. That's the sort of three main things that I wanted you to be thinking about as what you would need if you were going to start selling. The next part is that going back to that viability and thinking about the pricing bit, because I know this is a bit that people really struggle with and really worry about a lot. Because pricing is not just about what you charge, it's about whether your product is actually viable. So if you can't price it in a way that pays you fairly, covers your costs, it's not sustainable, as I've already said. So no matter how much you love making it. So I'm going to just do this very briefly, but this is not exhaustive again. This is something that I can go in a lot more depth with you. And I will send you, I've got the link in a minute. If you haven't already got my pricing guide, I'd definitely recommend you have a look at that. So if you were thinking about a particular product in your mind, imagine you've got a particular product you're thinking about you'd like to sell. We obviously know that you've got to include all the cost of materials of making that thing. Now, for me, when I was doing kits, that would also include the box. It would include the paper I printed the postal label on, the sticky bit I'd put on the outside, the mailing bag, literally everything that I would need to be able to make that material, that item. I would include that because I knew I was selling as kits and selling online. So I always knew that actually the postage and the packaging part, I wanted to factor into the cost of actually making a kit. So it's not just literally the wool or the whatever it might be. It is literally everything that you need to make that item is your cost. So if I was making, I used to make little felt bears and they had a little ribbon around their neck. I'd know how much it cost me to buy a full reel of ribbon. I would measure how much I'd actually put round each bear's neck and kept it the same amount. And I would know how much per centimetre that ribbon cost me. And I'd actually be able to work out exactly how much that piece of ribbon around that teddy bear's neck cost. It's that kind of level of making sure you're really good with your pricing. You then got to know how long it's taken you to make. So when you make something from the beginning, you do need to cover your, actually log it and make sure you know what you'd pay yourself per hour times how long it takes to make. Now, this bit I'm going to come back to in a second because I know you might be asking a question, thinking about that bit. So we've got our total cost of materials and our time cost, and we add them together. That equals our cost price. And it's at that point then that we should be multiplying that cost price to end up with our retail price. That's a very quick whistle stop of pricing. But let me just point out a couple of things. I've noticed, and I've seen this on Instagram very, very recently, a lady was selling these absolutely beautiful headbands, flower headbands. And she was very honest and very kind of open and transparent, which I think is great for people to understand how much it cost her to make. Because even the flowers and all the things on the low alone were about 40 odd quid. Then she said it took her out however long. So the price altogether, I think she'd actually said she was selling them on Etsy for something like £65. but she was admitting that they actually cost her 80 something pounds. But actually, all she'd actually done is got to this cost price part because she'd only added up the materials and her time. So many people think that by adding on your time, you've covered all your costs. But your time is part of the cost to make it. That's not a profit. So you do need to be adding your cost of materials and your time to make. It's just your cost price. That's what it's cost you to make it. And that's where you need to add the profit margin on top. Now that multiplying by two, 2.5 is kind of a standard to get a retail price. And I know with handmade items, that suddenly can skyrocket them into a price that just feels totally out there. And that's where this whole pricing comes back to the viability bit again, because you might want to think and do a bit of market research, see what other prices are. You might just make your profit margin that bit smaller, but it's not about just dumping your price right down. When people do that, and sadly, so many people do with handmade products, it's devaluing handmade for everybody. And that's why I'm so passionate about helping people to feel confident to price properly so that actually everyone in the handmade market can really feel confident about their pricing and that it's people are paying what they should be paid and people are able to actually make a profit from handmade as well. The other bit to come back to is that pay yourself per hour bit. Another common thing I see is people just saying, oh, I'm going to charge 10 quid an hour. And it's because you've seen everyone charge 10 quid an hour, or that it's kind of near minimum wage. So I'll sort of pay myself £10 an hour. But if you think about how many physical hours in a week you could actually work on your product or be making, and that's all the time that you are making those. If you were only paid £10 an hour for that making time, is that going to actually generate you a salary or wage that you could live off? Probably not. So something else that I do in my pricing guide, and which I go a little bit more in depth into my course as well, is really thinking about what your pay per hour should actually be. And I know this is really scary, and I know it feels like it's suddenly going to be going right out there, but that's all what we can look at. And we can think about what your product is, what adjustments we can make. I might be able to help you to find places to buy better. So you're not going to Hobbycraft. If you're buying your supplies from Hobbycraft, you're not getting good prices. You might need to start looking at having a wholesale account somewhere, all that kind of stuff. There's lots involved in it. And I'm sorry if I'm blowing anyone's mind with pricing, but you can see I'm really passionate about really making sure that we can earn a living and really enjoy making our handmade things, knowing that we actually can be paid properly for them. So if you haven't got it already, I think some of you probably have, you can get your cameras out now and take a photo there, or let me know at any point and I can put a link in at the end. I can put a link in the chat when we're going through any questions, but that will give everything in detail. I'm in the very near future adding on a little mini course to that, so that'll be a little addition to kind of really dig deep into pricing by itself. So I'll just leave that there for a second in case anyone is wanting to look at that. Okay, part 3. Just going to time check. Okay. The final little thing that I wanted to talk to you about is your actual sales strategy. Now, I've said first sale strategy. For some of you, it might be a first sale, but for some of you, it might not be your first sale. But if you have had a sale at some point, the goal absolutely is when you make that sale, it gives you proof of your concept, of your idea, or of your product, and it boosts your confidence. I can literally remember when I did my first sale not on the high street, and I was walking down just to drop the kids off at school. I'm walking down. I don't even know how I noticed, but saw this email and then someone had ordered about 3 or so of my little bears that I used to make. And it's just that like, oh my God, someone actually likes them and wants to buy them. It's just the best feeling in the world. So you might notice that in this strategy, I'm going to be revisiting part one a little bit, which is coming back to that sellable idea, your platform that you're selling on, and your visibility plan. Because the simple strategy involves this. It's having a product. So at the beginning, a simple strategy would be to start with one product. That would be how I would start, so that your messaging is really, really clear. So I know for some of you, this is probably really hard because you've actually thought, oh, I've got all these lovely things and I'm making all this tons of stuff. And how can I choose one thing? But it's where we're going to start. We're going to focus on one product. And then we're going to pick that one platform that we're going to focus on so that we really keep our focus. And as I've said, you could combine that a little bit with craft fairs for your feedback. And then we're going to have a visibility plan where we're going to make 3 visibility actions. So this is my simple strategy to just make a start. One product, one platform, and a simple visibility plan. And those visibility actions could be telling your immediate audience, who do you know already that might be interested in what you're doing? That might be that you've started to get a little bit of following. Tell them all about it. It might just be friends and family. It might be people you work with, but your immediate audience. The other thing that your visibility action might be is to think about your local community or a community you're perhaps within, like that might be a Facebook or an online community. And then you're going to think about, excuse me, some growth content that you can add onto your social media. So things that actually really interest people in what you're doing, showing behind the scenes of making it, your story of why you're making it, what you're doing. That kind of really lovely growth content that gets people interested and bringing new people into your world. Okay, that's a real, feels like a whistle stop, but we've already only got 20 minutes left. So that's gone incredibly quickly. And I know that's an awful lot of information for you as well to take in. But essentially, what I've wanted to make sure that you can feel and see that we can really make something simple to be able to make a start. And that's what I really want to be able to help you with. So I'm assuming that these are some of the things that you maybe came along tonight to really think about because you want to have these things. You want to see your makes in someone else's hand. You want to see that ping. I love that ka-ching and feel that rush of sale. To know that you are charging fairly and confidently. So if you're someone at this point is not sure that you are, that's how I can really help you with that kind of feeling confident to charge and price. That you want to feel calm and clear about where to sell and how to sell. So you maybe come along thinking you don't feel clear about that. I've talked about how where you can start somewhere simple and start somewhere to make a start. And that maybe you came because you are really keen to make a little side hustle or a business that's something really lovely that you enjoy, just getting a few extra treats or trips or freedom from, and you don't want all that hustle and overwhelm. So that's where I wanted to share with you my new course, which is called Craft to Income. And I've labelled it From Messy Beginnings to Confident Clarity in 5 gentle and doable steps. So you'd basically have a couple of options. If you were wanting to, you can absolutely continue as you are. You can keep trying to figure it out alone. You can use Google. You could carry on doing a trial and error. But I would absolutely love you to take option 2, where I can really help you with my creative experience, my path, and help you learn what you need to know without wasting your time, help you build your momentum and do that really gently, and do it with someone who's actually being exactly where you are to help and guide you. So I've given you a little starting map this evening. And inside my course, you're obviously going to get that whole journey and I will walk you through it step by step. So you don't just know what to do, you're actually going to help, I'm going to help you get it done. So you might be thinking, is it for me? Is it what I kind of really want? You probably didn't necessarily come along this evening thinking about whether you would even do a course or anything like that. But it's for those of you who are just starting and you want to get to that first sale bit, or maybe you've already started, but things just feel a bit messy and you want to get a bit of clarity and some confidence. You want a business, side hustle, whatever that might be, but you want it to be really simple, joyful, and life friendly, not something that's going to take over and feel all consuming, because that's absolutely not what I want it to do. And obviously, it's designed for people that are yarn and textile makers, crocheters, knitters, sewers, weavers, felters, yarn dyers, whatever your thing is, with that particular penchant towards those sorts of things, because obviously that's from where my experience is. And you want to get your idea to sales with confidence. So by the end of the course, you would definitely feel like you've got a really clear, viable product that is really, you're happy with the pricing. You feel really confident about what it is and what you're going to go with it. You would definitely feel that you've got your product listed. You'd feel like you're absolutely ready for sale. I'd make sure that you feel confident if you're going to go to a craft market or and helping you with actually doing any listings. That you will go away with a clear, manageable visibility plan, so you know kind of what you're going to actually do for visibility. Whether you are going to do any of the things I talked about, you might not feel quite ready for that, but you'd certainly feel like you can make a start and make a plan, and that then you've got a real clear system that you can keep thinking about how you can build on it and grow. That's the idea of the course coming together. So just to give you a little bit more in depth of what the outline of the course is, it's a 5 module course, and it's all self-led. But I'll tell you a little bit about there's some interaction and live bits with me as well. Module 1's about that idea, that seed of an idea. So you're really clear on what you're selling and who you're selling it to. That's the really, really important bit. So we'll do some thinking about your customer, deep work into your customer. Preparing your first offer. So really thinking about how your idea goes into a product that sells with confidence. And starting where you are would be the 3rd module. So we're really making sure that you're set up to sell without overwhelm. So that's all thinking about the where and the how. Then your strategy, so that's thinking about your visibility, what works without you having to think about worrying that you've got a huge audience. So I really go into depth about, those vanity metrics and forgetting all of that kind of stuff. And then what comes next, really making sure you've got to the end of the course feeling like you absolutely know what you could do next, what you want to improve on, and how you can build gentle momentum. Now, I've decided to add in an extra module, and that's based on the lovely people that are in my Facebook group, the Creative Side Hustle Sanctuary, who really told me a lot about that. What they really struggle with and find really hard is the social media bit. As much as it's only one part of our visibility, I completely get that it is a big part of what people think about. So I want to add in an extra module that kind of helps you show up online in confidence without that huge following. I'm posting every day, and I'm also going to include some actually done for you templates and things that you can edit and stuff like that. So that'd be a really nice bonus module for you. So you might not be familiar with doing any sort of course like this at all. This might be the first time you've even thought about whether you would want to do a course that would help you with your craft to income kind of journey. But what I would say that if you had thought about it before, why is this course different? I'm absolutely someone who really believes in making sure it's done calmly. I've gone to that burnout level. I've been there, and it's really important to me that mental health and well-being is really thought about, so that you can do this in your own pace, in your own time. Nice bite-sized lessons. It's absolutely designed with textile and yarn crafters in mind, but obviously it's still suitable for any handmade craft. To be honest, there's lots of things that would be applicable to different crafts, and it's done step by step, so it's really nice in a gentle way. You'll also have, it also includes video tutorials, so every module starts with me talking and video and teaching, and you've got lots of printables that you can print off and keep and refer back to. You get lifetime access to it, so you can come back to it and take as long as you want to do. And there is a private community that I've just set up purely for this course where people can come and ask questions, and I'll be in there dropping in live, doing little things, and you can get support along the way as well. The whole launch price for all of this course is 5 module plus an extra one. 6 module course is £97. That is a launch price. That's the first launch of this course. So that is a limited launch price. And just being super keen, I always just want to help, so keen to help people. In the first 48 hours, there's going to be the opportunity if you enroll for a personal audit. So I will look at your product idea, your Etsy shop, or your Instagram bio and grid, something that you want me to have a look at, and I will give you some tailored feedback and steps to take action with that. That's if you sign up by 8 p.m. Saturday, but that might be extended. I'll tell you why in a second. And then I'm also doing a 7 day bonus. So if by this time next week you sign up within that window, there's a few other little extra bonuses that you'd also get, which is me doing a live Q&A and planning call, so that you've got some actual steps to walk away with, which will be followed up with a sort of 7 day take action plan. Because I know some people kind of really like to have something concrete to like actually do the thing and take action, which is what that's about. You'll get a creative biz clarity kit. So I've got lots of different little things like calendars and all sorts of things like that in that kit. And I will also be sending you a little surprise in the post. And that's if, as I say, within that week window. Now, I'm going to be sending you an email. I said about tech gremlins earlier. This QR code is rather ungracefully going to take you straight to a checkout page. So if you feel like you absolutely feel confident this could be something that could really help you, you can have a scan of that code and it will take you straight there. There are different payment options available, Klarna and other things are on there as well. And once you sign up and pay, you'll get invited into the join up group. Now, the course itself is going to open up next Friday. That's just going to give me a little bit of time to polish up the last few things, and it leaves that bonus window open as well. So once that week bonus window, once that closes, then the course will open and it will start rolling with the introduction and module one. And then I'm planning to drop each module, the 5 modules, plus the extra once a week after that. The gremlin is that the lovely bit that kind of explains all of it, that page doesn't seem to be connecting to this page. So I've still got to try and figure out, I don't know, it looks like it should be working fine to me, and I can't work out why. So I'm going to follow up with an email, because the idea was that the email would have gone like pinged for you at 9 o'clock ready as soon as we finished, to be there ready for you to look at that and go through the pages. But yeah, Tech Gremlins, that page will come up, but it won't link then to the checkout page. So this is an ungraceful, as I say, link straight to that bit just to check that it worked. So that is there for you. Now, I did say about your stay to the end bonuses. So grab your phones and get your another QR code out for you there. If any of these don't work, don't panic. I've got all of your emails because you've come through the links. I can email all of these links to you. So if you don't get to them, don't panic. I will send them through to you separately. But that's if you can get to it now, that is your links there to download those stay to the end bonuses.